Hi, everyone. I'm Anahid Garakanyan. I'm here to welcome everybody and get us started. And so I just want to quickly share with you the plan for today's 1 hour virtual open house session. We're going to start with some brief introductions for those of us who are here from Southwestern. And the overview of our program today is that we're going to be talking about our evening program schedule, about asynchronous sessions, synchronous sessions, what that means, how those classes are structured. We are very lucky to have an evening student with us, a third-year student. So we're going to hear from her perspective. We often get asked about our clinics and externships, so we're going to share that information with you. And financial aid is another big area where we get a lot of questions. And so we'll share information about financial aid and definitely leave plenty of time for your questions and our answers at the end. By this time, everybody's used to Zoom, to please stay on mute because otherwise we get feedback echoing, but definitely feel free to jump in, unmute yourself and ask a question or use the raise your hand feature. So we'll start with brief introductions for the group here from Southwestern. I'll lead us off. I have been at Southwestern, this is my 19th year. I come from a practice background and started teaching at Southwestern in the legal writing program. I direct our externship program, and I work very closely with our admissions office. I have taught evening for a number of years, not this year, but for the past few years, I was teaching the evening legal writing course and have great appreciation for our evening students, the focus that you bring to your classes, to why you're in law school, and juggling so much. It's always a phenomenal group of students, always happy to talk to prospective evening students. I'll hand it over to Vice Dean Weissman.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dove Weissman. I'm the Vice Dean and a professor here at Southwestern. I've been on the Southwestern faculty since 2007. Like Professor Garakanian, I was in practice before coming to Southwestern. I was a litigator at a big firm and then at a smaller firm. I also began my teaching career by teaching in our legal writing program. We call that Legal Analysis, Writing and Skills, or LAWS, here at Southwestern, and then transitioned to teaching contracts and community property in 2013, and I've been in the administrative vice dean role for the last 2.5 years or so. Really, I'm thrilled to be here with you tonight. I taught in our evening program last year in the new reimagined evening program that we're going to be talking all about tonight. So look forward to chatting with you about that and answering any of your questions.
Suzanne, do you want to go next?
Sure. My name's Suzanne Kuntz, and I'm the Associate Director of the Financial Aid Office. I've been in financial aid for about probably 11 years now. And but most of my career has been in business, running businesses, et cetera. So you're going to find we're a little different than some financial aid offices that you've probably worked with before, but you'll get to know me very well. So I look forward to working with each one of you and answering any questions you have, anything at all. Just feel free. You'll get my email at the end of the presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
And I'm here to say, when Suzanne says that our financial aid office is a little different from other financial aid offices, it's like different in a really good way. Incredible care and attentiveness towards students.
We like our jobs.
Julie, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, absolutely. Hi, everybody. Some of you may know me. I see some familiar names here already. I'm Julie Spencer. I'm Assistant Director of Admissions. I've been with Southwestern since 2013. One of my favorite parts about working in the admissions office is working with students like you, especially with the evening program. A lot of people think, hey, I'm working full time. I have a family. I can't go to law school. I have to give up this dream. And then, working with you guys and realizing that it's very possible, it's very manageable, which you'll see more tonight. And if you have any questions, between tonight or the next couple weeks, months, as you prepare your application, please reach out to me. I'm here to help you get all those materials together and answer any questions along the way. And then even after, as an applicant, any questions after that and all that good stuff.
Thanks, Julie.
Of course.
Jacqueline, do you want to do a quick intro now? And then we'll hear more from you later.
Sure, yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm Jacqueline Envy. I am a 3L evening student. I was in your position not so long ago, and it's gone really slow and really fast at the same time, if that makes any sense. But you'll hear more about my experience later, but welcome.
Thank you. So I'm going to hand it over to Dean Weissman now to talk about our evening program schedule. And anytime, Dean Weissman, you want, let me know and I'll pull up our slides.
Sure. So hi, everyone. Really happy again to be here with you to chat about our evening program. So Southwestern's had an evening program for over 100 years. We're the second oldest law school in LA. We started in 1911 with a vision of making law school accessible to folks who traditionally wouldn't have been able to attend. And one of the ways that we did that is by offering a day program, as our founder said, for people who worked in the night, and a night program for people who worked during the day. So our evening program is a really important part of what we do, and it's really at the core of our mission of making law school accessible to people who have jobs, families, other responsibilities that might otherwise have made it very, very difficult, if not impossible, to go to law school. So what we found is, traditionally our evening program required students to come to campus 4 nights a week, Monday through Thursday. And what we have found in recent years is that that's become increasingly challenging for folks. Folks are coming from longer and longer distances in their commute. Sometimes they have a triangular commute where they live in one place, work in another place, and have to come to Southwestern, which is a third place. At the same time, we've seen over the last 20 years this incredible revolution in distance education and what's possible given the technology that now exists, like Zoom, which we're all on and probably familiar with. So what we did is we decided, let's reimagine our evening program as a hybrid or blended program where students go to class part of the week on campus, just as they traditionally would, meeting their professors on our lovely Bullocks-Wilshire building or our Westmoreland building campus in the heart of LA. Let's do that 2 nights a week. But the rest of the week, let's allow students to do distance learning so they do not have to commute to our campus. And we think that's going to make life easier and save students a lot of time and just make generally the law school process smoother and more doable for folks who are already have very busy lives. So starting last year, academic year 1920, we began our reimagined program with a 2-night-a-week on campus and 2-night-a-week distance learning schedule. And so what I want to do in the rest of my time is just walk you through some of the details of how our program actually works. And now, Anahit, I will ask you to bring up the PowerPoint. So we use, 2 nights a week, as I said, you're coming to campus, being in the classroom physically with your professor and your classmates, just as you would in a traditional law school setting. The rest of the week, we do distance learning. And you probably are already familiar with the distinction that I want to talk about, which is the distinction between 2 different kinds of distance learning, asynchronous and synchronous. These are kind of fancy words, but they really have very basic meanings. Asynchronous distance learning basically just means you're learning on your computer on your own time according to your own schedule, because all of the instruction is either pre-recorded video segments where your professors actually recorded the content, or you're doing assignments, exercises, and other means of engaging with the content that the professor is presenting. But the basic idea with asynchronous education, asynchronous meaning not at the same time as, you're not online necessarily at the same time as your professor, at the same time as your classmates. You can learn at your own pace by watching recorded video segments and completing written assignments and other exercises on the learning management system, which we use at Southwestern, which is Canvas. So Some of your classes in your first year will use asynchronous learning, not all of them, but some of them. In particular, your criminal law course taught by Professor Carpenter. I'm going to show you some segments of that. Some years torts has featured asynchronous learning, and some of our laws or legal writing classes use asynchronous learning. The other type of distance learning that we use at Southwestern in our Reimagined Evening program, and this is actually something that we're doing, and the same is true of asynchronous learning, not just in our evening program, but throughout our entire curriculum and all of our programs due to the pandemic. The other type of distance learning is synchronous learning, and that means that you are online on Zoom or another similar video conferencing platform at the same time as your professor and your classmates. You're in class on a Zoom, so it would just look like what we're in right now. We're all together at the same time in a virtual classroom. And so some of your classes in our program, for example, contracts and some of the laws classes will use this alternative synchronous approach. And so really what you're going to have is, in our distance program, you're going to have 3 different types of learning. You're going to have the traditional physical classroom learning where you come to campus. You're going to have asynchronous distance learning where you're watching pre-recorded video segments and completing written assignments and other exercises that correlate with those video segments. And you're going to be in synchronous distance learning sessions like we're all in together right now in Zoom. Next slide, please. So just so you can see how it really works on a nuts and bolts level. What I've given you here is a sample schedule of the way it would work. I've chosen fall 2019 rather than this fall because this fall's a little unusual because everything is distance learning. You're not coming to campus at all, but hopefully if everything continues to improve, or things actually aren't improving now, but we hope by next fall we'll be in a position where we're able to resume on-campus classes. And if we are, this is something like you can expect your schedule to look. So if you see it, the top row is just the 5 days of the week, and you can say under each day there's a label, either distance learning, which means you're not coming to campus, or in residence, meaning you're coming to our campus, you're sort of residing on our campus and taking classes in a physical classroom with your classmates and professor. So for example, in fall 2019, Monday was a distance learning day. And it was a fully asynchronous distance learning day, which meant really that if you didn't want to do any actual law school work on a Monday because, say, you just had a crazy day at work and you wanted to instead do that on your own time on another day, you could do that. So Monday is really a clear day. We would imagine that you would do some asynchronous learning, watching video segments, completing assignments, maybe doing reading for your classes, but there's no requirement that you would. You're totally on your own for Monday. Okay, Tuesday and Wednesday, and the same was going to be true for this fall had we been back on campus, but Tuesday and Wednesday in fall 2019 were your on-campus days. And so you would have classes running from 6 p.m. to 9:15 both of those days, and those would be the 2 days that you would be expected to come to campus. So on Tuesday, students started out with a 90-minute criminal law class with Professor Carpenter. Then they had a 15-minute break, and then they had another 90-minute legal writing class. Again, LAWS stands for Legal Analysis, Writing, and Skills. It's what we here at Southwestern call our legal writing course. Wednesday was the second on-campus or in-residence day. There you would start, instead of starting with criminal law, you'd start with contracts at 6 p.m. Same time, classes will not start before 6 p.m. because we know a lot of you have work obligations or other obligations. That was a 2-hour class because just of the way the schedule worked out. Then you had another 15-minute break. And then on Wednesday at 8:15 for an hour, you had our Foundations of Law and Practice course. This is a special course that we offer as a required course, actually, for all first-year students at Southwestern. And what Foundations really is it's a course in how to succeed in law school and in practice as an attorney. It's a credit, no credit course, meaning it's pass-fail, you're not graded. And really what it is it's just a course that gives you the tools for being able to be successful in law school and in practice later on. So that's an important part of what we do in our first year curriculum. And just like all first year students, you would have foundations 1 hour a week. It only meets 1 hour a week on Wednesdays on campus. All right, and then once you get to the end of your classes on Wednesday, that was it. You didn't have to come to campus anymore. Thursday was a distance learning day. That meant that you could hop on the computer and attend class via the internet. Now, unlike Monday, which is fully asynchronous, meaning that you could totally learn at your own pace. And if Monday just didn't work out for you to be in class that day or to be focusing on law school, you could make it up on another day. Thursday was largely a synchronous learning day, meaning that although you're not expected to come to campus, you actually had to be on Zoom, and this was actually in my contracts class, with me learning contracts for an hour from 6 to 7 via Zoom. Then you had another 15-minute break, and you would then have an hour and a half second legal writing class, also via Zoom. Friday was a distance learning day, but it was the same as Monday. So it was a time to do your asynchronous learning, maybe brief your cases, do your reading for the next week, but it was really your time that you could manage as you saw fit, depending on your schedule. So what we were able to do on this fall is not only make it so that you only had to come to campus 2 days a week, but we also made it so that your only synchronous class obligations were Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and the other 2 days we were able to reserve for distance learning. While we can commit and guarantee that you will not have to come to campus more than 2 nights a week in our program, it may not be that every semester we're able to do it so that you actually have 2 days flexible and free, but we were able to do that. We were able to do that this semester. And I realize I'm throwing a lot of information at you. So if anyone has a question, feel free to raise your hand digitally using the Zoom feature, and I'll call on you. But I think for now we can move to the next slide.
We actually have a question from
Oh, we do? Sorry.
No worries. It was probably a quick question, and COVID may be a help in answering this, but have you noticed any degree or difference in difficulty between traditional in-person classes versus the online format as far as getting work completed or understanding completely what the assignments are for?
Yeah, we really have not. What we have seen is that, students who are in our evening program tend to have busier lives. And so I think the time management challenges for evening students, like all of our part-time students, can be more significant than they are for students who are just able to do law school full-time and don't have to balance careers and families and all the other things. But we would not be doing this if we didn't feel that the quality of the learning was just as effective as it is in a brick and mortar environment. We feel very strongly that the way we're delivering this, now, not all distance learning is created equal, but we feel we've given so much time and thought and effort into designing these distance learning classes that we feel that the learning is just as effective, if not more. I mean, I think there actually are some aspects of the distance learning method which are actually better than learning in the brick and mortar classroom. For example, the asynchronous approach where you have pre-recorded video segments, you can watch those as many times as you want. Right. Whereas if you're in class and you don't happen to be recording the class, you might have missed something that your professor said, and you might have to go in office hours or ask a fellow student. So we think there are some real advantages to distance learning. But I think, your question went to the difficulty, and I don't think it's any more or less difficult in terms of the actual material. But I'm not going to lie, I do think that there's an extra challenge for evening students, which is the time management, because so many of you folks work full-time.
Great.
I have a question. Can I ask another question?
Absolutely.
My question is, after COVID, do you think you guys are still going to be implementing the Zoom classes, or is that something that's going to be completely eliminated from the schedule?
No, the whole idea is that we would continue to offer the distance learning, which would almost certainly include some synchronous, meaning via Zoom learning, after COVID. We were doing this before COVID, and we plan to do it after COVID.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And we have another question, Amir.
Dean Wiseman, I just want to thank you for taking the time to meet with us today. And then my question comes into the question of when you talked about office hours. So if I'm not mistaken, some of the evening professors are the same as day professors.
Correct.
So in regards to office hours, how does that work then if evening students typically would like to, let's say, attend office hours, or is there office hours during the day, or professors usually willing to just coordinate something via email for a later time, or how do night students deal with that?
Your professors in the evening program are very aware that if they held their office hours only during the daytime, many, if not most of you evening students would not be able to attend. So all of the professors will design and schedule their office hours in a way that makes it possible for you to attend. That might mean having a set of office hours shortly before classes start, like at say 5 p.m. I did that. It might mean having a set of office hours on campus after classes are over. You know, you might have a set of 9:30 to 10:30 office hours. What I learned when I was teaching in the evening program is probably the most accessible way, though, to hold office hours is just to do it via Zoom. I did them in the late evenings. I did them on weekends. I did them on Friday evenings when I knew students didn't have classes, and I thought I'd get 1 or 2 people and I would have like 20 people on a Friday evening. So office hours are critical, and every professor who teaches in the evening program will hold office hours that are going to be doable for evening students. We will not just say, oh, my office hours are from 2 to 4. Sorry if you're working at that time.
Perfect.
That's a good question. Thank you,
And I
Amir.
just wanted to second what Dean Weissman was explaining. I've had the same experience with my students, and this is pre-pandemic. Now everything's on Zoom, right? But before, Zoom really made it so much easier. So I would offer office hours like 8 a.m. in the morning before people were going to work, during the lunch break, if that was convenient for some people, as well as over the weekend. So there's a very strong sensitivity to evening students, busy schedules, not just in terms of the work, but many of our evening students have family obligations. And so working around that and offering a lot of different options. Shilpa, you have a question?
Hi, good evening. Thank you for taking the time to answer our questions. I heard Dean Wiseman say that time management is definitely a challenge for the evening students. I'd like to know how he noticed that. Is it just based on the work, the quality of the work that he's getting from the new program, or is it from students?
No, it's from students, and from over the years, from having spoken to students and talking to students, it's certainly not the quality of the work. I will tell you that, some of our most successful students are evening students. What you hear is students just saying, imagine if you have a family and you have a full-time job and you're doing law school. What I hear students saying is, I have no time to do anything but go to class during the week. And I have to devote most of my weekend to my reading, my briefing, my outlining, my practice exam taking. If I don't do that, I literally don't have any hours in the day between my work and my family and actually being in class to actually do all the important, studying that you have to do. So it's really just anecdotal evidence that I've heard from student after student, for many, many years. You have to learn to be a schedule person and stick to a schedule and really sort of squeeze the juice out of every hour in the day in order to be successful. And, I think most people are able to do it. I think it comes more naturally to some than others, but I think, what we see in the first year is students sort of making the adjustment. And then as things roll along, students figure it out. They figure out what works for them.
I have another question, kind of the same, but not a little different, kind of anecdotal as well. As I am preparing for LSATs, I see quotes on different study materials from past students that LSATs is indicative of someone who will pass a bar exam 4 to 5 years later or not. Having a specific GPA and score is indicative of whether or not one should invest the time and the money to then figure out whether or not you will pass a bar exam or not. And if you have a certain score or where you are on the index, you should invest or not. Do you think that's true in your experience? And I think it's a good question to evaluate before someone goes into that investment. What do people do when they don't pass a bar exam and they have invested time and money into this education?
Great questions. Do you want to speak to any of that, or should I take a stab?
So you were muted for a second.
Do you want to speak to any of Shilpa's questions, or should I take a stab?
So the LSAT matters in a few different ways. When we look at applications with respect to the undergraduate GPA, you know, the major, the school, it's kind of all over the place, right? So the LSAT is the one standardized way that we can assess applicants. And we do try to take a very holistic approach in terms of reviewing applications, especially when we're looking at our evening applicants coming from a lot of work experience, having that background. Yet and still, those numbers matter. And the LSAT plays a big role in terms of the incoming scholarships. So that is something that you should know and, you know, worth paying attention to try to do as well as you can. In terms of to what extent is the LSAT a predictor for bar success, it's somewhat of a predictor, but what we know is a much, much better predictor is your performance in law school. And also the preparation for the bar exam. So we know from students who take advantage of the support program, the complementary program that Southwestern provides to those preparing for the bar exam, when they're doing 90–95% of the work consistently and more, their chances of passing the bar exam really jumps. So the LSAT, you know, you're studying for the LSAT isn't necessarily going to help you with the bar exam success, but to some extent, having the discipline, the work ethic to say, you know, this is a test, it may not mean very much, but this is a test that's important and I have to put in the disciplined work and try to improve, is building up good habits that are going to help you with law school and are going to help you with bar prep as well.
Shilpa, I think the second part of your question is about, you know, what do you do if you don't pass the bar the first time? Yeah, so everyone worries about that, right? You know, when I took the bar, I worried about that. It's a very hard exam. And the answer is, if you don't pass you try your best to pass the first time. No one wants to take this exam more than once. But if you don't pass the first time, you try again. I mean, you know, people pass the second, third, or even fourth time. It's a very, very common thing. I mean, sometimes it just takes, you know, maybe you had a bad couple of days, or, you know, maybe there was something going on in your personal life, or maybe you just needed a second bite at the apple after doing it once. And, you know, so what we see is that, you know, at Southwestern, traditionally, somewhere around, right now, we're around the high 50s to low 60s in terms of the percentage of our students who pass on the first time.
Oh,
but once we get to, you know, 5 years out, the vast majority of our students have passed, like we're in the 90%. So almost everybody passes eventually. And so if you don't pass the first time, it's a very common experience, and you just keep trying. And you know, I don't know if anyone wants to guess the record for the number of times somebody took the bar before they passed. Anyone want to guess?
Is it 13?
More.
Wow. 18.
So someone said 8.
More. 45. Somebody passed on the 45th time. This person had basically taken the bar twice a year for over 20 years and eventually passed. So don't be that person. Don't be that person, you know, but anyway.
Or I mean, that person, wow, they did not give up.
They didn't give up.
The resiliency.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Dean Weissman, I'm wondering, would it be okay to now go to Jacqueline and get the students?
I think we should. Yeah, I think we should. I think we should move on to the rest of the presentation, and I'll stick around if there are more questions.
And also, we just had one of our other colleagues join us, Professor DeJarfas. So do you want to do a quick introduction of yourself, your connection to Southwestern?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Sorry. Hi, everybody. So I am a Southwestern grad myself, and I was an evening student back a while ago. So I was an engineer by day and went to law school at night, and just an amazing experience. And they just can't seem to get rid of me. So I went and litigated for a while. I worked in the federal court system. I hung up my own shingle, and I just I love what I do with teaching, and I teach legal analysis and writing to both day and evening students, and I just love it. I love the hallowed halls of Southwestern, of which someday we'll be back in. And it's just a great atmosphere, and it's a great camaraderie amongst the students, and I just get so excited. I mean, whenever I talk about it, I literally just, I get really excited. I love working with the students, and the students all love, being with each other, and there's just such a great experience to all achieve this goal together. So, jump on the train, and we'll get you there one way or another, as Dove said, whether it takes you 45 tries or no, just kidding. No. I didn't even know that. That's crazy. I was thinking, oh, maybe 17. But, okay. But anyways, that's really it. I don't want to take up too much more time. I'll hang around for questions at the end if anybody has anything. Thanks, Anahid.
Thank you. So before we go to Jacqueline, a question in chat about LSAT scores for scholarships. How does part-time status affect scholarship consideration, if at all? It doesn't affect it at all. So regardless of which program you're applying to, whether it's our 2-year JD program, 3-year full-time JD program, part-time evening, part-time day, admission criteria is all the same, scholarship awarding, it's all the same. So Jacqueline, we're gonna come to you now and I'll ask you a couple of questions, and then at the end we'll leave time for other questions that our guests might have. So a lot has come up in terms of balancing work and non-school obligations with being an evening student. Can you talk to that a little bit?
Yes, I can definitely echo a lot of what was already said. Finding the balance between work and school, it definitely takes a lot of practice and discipline. As you get further along in the process, at least for me, I definitely found that it was easier to kind of fit everything into place. You become a time management person because you just kind of have to be. I think like Dean Weissman said, you kind of make every single minute count. You find really creative ways to get things done and study. Like for me, when finals rolls around, my house becomes kind of like a beautiful mind, crazy place where I'm really into color coding. So I'll get blank pieces of paper and color code and post them on the ceiling in my bedroom or above my TV or on my bathroom mirror, and I'll just study while I'm brushing my teeth. Or I'll just talk to some of my non-law school friends and see if I'm able to explain things to them in kind of an understandable way. And if they're able to understand it, like that's how I know I really understand the concepts. So yeah, you kind of find really creative ways of making it work. I think if you are working full-time, for me, it was really important to have a really supportive employer, someone who understands that you're going to law school and there are going to be probably those days where you're going to need to maybe take a day off for finals or just a mental health day because you're at a certain point. So I think having an employer who understands that, or who at least can accommodate that, has been a lifesaver for me. So.
And in terms of whether it's different programs in law school or what your professors have done, what has helped you, if you think back to your first year, what helped you kind of acclimate into law school?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's funny that someone brought up the office hours thing because I've probably been in a professor's office until like 11 at night multiple times. The professors are always there for you. Whether it's after class, they'll stick around. A group of us will just stay with the professor and ask questions. Even over Zoom, it works really well. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I think the professors, like I said, are great. Everyone's willing to help you. Everyone understands how crazy difficult it is to be an evening student. And so, yeah, don't be afraid to reach out to your professors. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Everyone is there to help you. So.
And can you talk a little bit about your experience with the online classes? How easy or hard, how effective they've been?
Yeah. So my first year, we also had one day that was Zoom learning, and that was great. Right now, I definitely took some getting used to because I'm definitely like, I enjoy the kind of social aspect of it, like getting to class and chatting or kind of talking about the readings before you get cold called, maybe, just kind of talking things out beforehand. But I've gotten used to it, and I think it's really not that different. I did hear a couple things of like the quality of the work, whether that's affected or not. I think if you're the type of student that is there and wants to do the work, and it doesn't really matter if you're in the classroom or via Zoom. I think if you want to put the work into it, you will. And so what I found for me for the Zoom learning was to really create a space in your home, if you can, that's going to be conducive to that learning, because like I just moved a couple months ago and I was on my couch for a long time trying to do the classes, and I ended up kind of falling asleep or not really paying attention. So having a space like that is good. And then I haven't really noticed much of a difference with the classes. I mean, I like not having to drive 30 minutes to Southwestern every day. So that's been great.
And one last question, in terms of opportunities to engage in different activities outside of your just in-class courses, what has that been like as an evening student?
Yeah. I think as an evening student, it's so important to try and maybe join a club or try out for one of the honors programs that Southwestern offers, because it really gives you such great access to the school and to the professors, and you meet all of the day students or some of the day students that maybe you wouldn't be cross paths with at all. And you really find yourself kind of in some of these programs, and they give you such great opportunities to build on a lot of the knowledge that you're getting in your classes. And for me, it's been really fulfilling to especially do the honors programs. And yeah, I've been able to meet some great people. I've really expanded my writing skills and a lot of my legal knowledge. And so I would highly, if you have the time, and I heard somebody else say something about going to campus a lot, or whether they can do 4 days a week, not at home or something. If you do decide to take on a lot more, some of the honors programs and stuff, like you will be at school a lot. 2 in the mornings, or, you'll just be there a lot, but it's really fun and so rewarding. And it's just been a great opportunity for me.
So thanks for a lot of information. I'm assuming that there are going to be questions for you, but I'm going to actually use what you were talking about right now in terms of doing work, the professional growth, learning outside of the classroom as a segue to give everybody an overview of externships and clinics. But before I do that, I see Madison's hand is up. So Madison, if you want to ask your question, and then we'll move on.
It can wait until the end on the question and answer. I'm sorry. I thought I forgot.
Oh, no, we could do it. I have class actually, so we could do it now.
Oh, okay. I apologize if this is on the website, but I was researching so many part-time programs. I honestly couldn't find it. Is graduating from this part-time program qualify you just to sit for the California bar, or can you sit for any state's bar?
Any state's bar.
Yeah, any state's bar.
Okay.
your JD degree will be indistinguishable from the degree of a student in the full-time program or in the accelerated program. It's not a different degree. You're getting the exact same degree.
Got it. That was my follow-up question as well. Thank you.
So Jacqueline, if you need to leave a little early, we should take questions that folks might have for you right now.
Sure, that'd be great.
All right.
If you don't mind.
Yeah, no, definitely. Amir?
Yeah, Jacqueline, thank you for fitting us into your busy schedule. And I think you might have briefly touched in on this, but like you said, sometimes you stay till office hours till 11 and you were in the honors program. Sometimes you stay on campus till 2 a.m. So my question to you is, of you and your colleagues in the night program, I'm assuming the day doesn't end at 9:15 when class ends, it ends much later in regards to academic wise?
It honestly depends on the day. Like,
Okay.
for me, I really tried to get everything done. Like, I'm that type of person that I really, really love my weekends. And so I want to be done with everything by like 1 p.m. on Saturday. You know, if I have readings, I'll do them Friday night, I'll do them Saturday morning, and that's it. I'm not looking back. I'll review a little bit before class starts, but once Saturday afternoon hits, like
You're there.
I'm taking my weekend and I'm enjoying it. I found actually that after class tends to be more of like the social time. Like we on Thursday nights, a group of us, like we always went out to dinner after class. So I'm probably making it more dramatic than it is. The 2 a.m. nights probably very rare. The 11 a.m. night, 11 p.m. nights are like the week of finals. So it really doesn't start getting crazy until finals, or if you're like in the honors programs. It's doable. It's doable.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Other questions for Jacqueline? And there is a question in the chat in terms of if you have a busy work schedule during spring semester, for example, can you take those classes in another semester? And the answer is, in any given semester as a part-time student, you have to take minimum 8 units. And as a first-year student and a second-year student, there are required courses that you're taking in the fall and spring semester, and even a little bit of required courses in your third year. So there isn't that kind of customization based on, you know, somebody's particular schedule. Of course, if something comes up and somebody needs to take a leave of absence for a semester, that could be discussed with the Dean of Students office. So I'm going to go on now and share with you a little bit about our externships and clinics. And to let you know that as part-time students, even if you're working full-time, almost full-time, even if you have family obligations, there are opportunities for you to gain hands-on experience. And so the green box that I have here is about externships. So in the law school world, internships are called externships. It's an elective course. You get unit credit for enrolling in this course that is really about getting hands-on legal experience in the real world of law practice. You can get paid for the externship as long as it complies with our educational requirements. And even if, you know, you're working 9 to 5, you can't really carve out any time to do an externship with the district attorney's office or with the Children's Law Center, or to work with a judge, depending on what your interest is, with an entertainment law office. We can still figure out ways for you to do that externship. Number one, if your work with your employer, part of the office involves legal work, and your employer agrees to have you work in that capacity and treat you as a student versus an employee for a designated number of hours per week, we can work with that and make it into an externship. Right now, all externships are remote or mostly remote. But even when we have the regular program and externships are in person, students who otherwise can't be in another office 9 to 5 because of your own work, we can create remote externship opportunities for you where you're getting assignments and doing them on your own time in the evenings, on the weekends, and continuously staying in touch with the supervisor. And we can also explore limited hour externships. So the experience, the opportunity is invaluable, and we have a lot of flexibility to work with you. What you see in the yellow box are clinics. So these are opportunities through basically law firms that the school runs. And as you can see, in a variety of different practice areas. So everything from children's rights issues to a variety of immigration law issues, to entertainment and arts clinic, family law. Some of them are year-long opportunities working with the Ninth Circuit. We have one youth offender parole if any of you are interested in the criminal justice system. And then we also have kind of in between experiential courses called practicums, amicus project, and also working with immigration appeals court. So bottom line being that there are lots of opportunities available, and we try to create a lot of flexibility for our evening students to take advantage of these. So next, I'm going to hand it over to Suzanne Kuntz to give you a quick overview about financial aid, and then we'll move to any questions that you might have.
Okay, so I'm off mute. So financial aid at Southwestern Law School. When it comes to the kind of aid that you can get for graduate school or law school, it's a little different than in your undergraduate. There are scholarships available. We do have entering student scholarships that are particularly merit-based scholarships. They're issued and awarded through the admissions office, but I'm happy to talk to you about them, but I don't have anything to do with their awarding. They're based on your GPA in undergrad. They're based on your LSAT score. They're based on your performance up to that point. For our continuing students, though, we have merit-based scholarships that are based on your class ranking after your first year. And those are, if you're ranked in the top 30% of your class, you will receive a scholarship that is merit-based.
Yeah.
We also have non-merit-based scholarships, and those are institutional
Why you leave
scholarships
the garage open, silly?
that
Why you leave the
so those are institutional scholarships, and they're not based on your grades. So I always encourage students to apply for that. It's one application, takes care of them all. It's very easy to do. And that's in the spring of your first year. So nothing to do on that one at all right now. As far as federal student aid, there are no grants in grad school. It's all loans. There, well, with the exception of this year, there are some CARES Act grants that have been available for our students. But all federal aid is governed by that wonderful FAFSA that you've all filled out before. Now, if you've never qualified for financial aid before, and they said your parents made too much money, or even you make too much money, that has nothing to do with grad school. Grad school is not need-based aid. There are loans available for all of our students if they qualify for federal aid. And in order to qualify, you merely need to either be a citizen or hold a green card. I work with a lot of students who have neither one of those classifications as well. So we'll walk you through whatever you need to go through. In order to get your financial aid, the FAFSA, you're just going to put in your 2019 tax return information. If you didn't work, that makes it even easier. You click the box that says I did not work, but you don't need your parents' information anymore. So that's really nice. I remember when my kids were trying to go to college years ago, and man, that was always fun to try to get parents involved. And when I worked with undergraduate students, that's always been the worst part of the FAFSA. We'll offer you a certain amount of aid, but I am available if you want to talk about that aid. If it's not enough, you just need to call or email me and we can work with you. You control your loans. We will help you apply for the loans. All you have to do is a little bit of documentation. And anytime I'm missing anything on you, I'll call you or email you and we'll talk. Go ahead and go on to the next slide. As far as the loans themselves, a little bit of documentation that's needed. Everything's available at studentaid.gov. They used to have like 6 different websites that students would have to go to. They've consolidated them all into one, so it's very easy to find out any information that you need. The loans this year, there are two kinds of loans that you can get. One's called an unsubsidized loan. That's the only one that will be mentioned on your FAFSA after you submit your FAFSA. That one maxes out at $20,500. But there's also a grad plus loan, or now they're calling it a direct plus loan, same loan. And that one can be up to cost of attendance. So you can actually get loans that are federally funded up to however much you need to go to school. That includes rent, that includes food, childcare. It includes your tuition, of course, and all the books that you might need as well. And we'll work with you with that. Right now, the interest rates on these loans are lower than I've ever seen them, and I've been in this business a while. So it's a good time to go to school. We'll all have our email addresses at the end of this presentation, but please don't hesitate. If you have any questions at all, if you're confused about something, that's what I'm here for.
Thank you, Suzanne. Madison, you have a question?
I was just wondering if that PowerPoint would be available to us after the conclusion of this. There was a lot of information that I wanted to.
So we're recording this session.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, Julie, how can we make the recording available?
We'll probably have it available in a couple days. I can either email it to everybody that attended, or I can see about putting it on the website, but I can definitely email it to everyone here.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And there's a question in the chat whether there's a merit chart for the scholarships. Julie, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't believe we have a merit scholarship chart. We definitely do Dean's Merit Scholarships for our continuing students. So your class rank is assessed at the end of each academic year. And this is by program. So all the 2-year JD students together, all the 3-year JD students together, all the part-time students together. And for that, if you're top 1%, you get a full ride. If you're 2 to 5%, you get 80% of your tuition, 6 to 10%, 70% of tuition, et cetera. But for incoming scholarship purposes, we do not have a chart. Amir, you have a question?
Yeah, sorry. So I'm not even in school yet. However, I just want to clarify something. So you said continuing students, their scholarship is based on their merit. And then I believe you said your merit is grouped upon your class. So is that merit grouped by 1Ls all in all, or is it like 2L, or is it 1L evening students or one group and that's considered one ranking?
Yes.
Or, okay, so wouldn't it be then though that your financial aid opportunity for evening students is a little less since there's a lesser pool of students, or am I just thinking that in an incorrect way?
I mean, it's a question of percentages.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, for each class, it's the top 1% and then 2 to 5%, et cetera.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
What other questions could we answer for you? And no question is too small. If it's on your mind, we want to hear about it. And probably other people are interested in the question too. Tiffany.
My question was, during COVID, or since everybody's been in quarantine, does your office find that the application numbers have gone up, or have they decreased?
So the tail end of the admission cycle for this year's starting class was overlapped with COVID, right? And applications across the country were pretty flat. With respect to the numbers, though, what happened with our situation, and we saw the same thing the year before, that there was a huge jump in terms of interest in Southwestern and the yield that we experienced, that there were a lot of people, a lot of applicants who we'd admitted were really interested in Southwestern. And so we started with a pretty big class in fall of 2019 compared to the incoming classes the few years prior. And we had the same experience this year as well. And the other thing that happens is, sometimes people start law school and in the first few weeks, in the first month, they figure out this isn't for me. And there was definitely, you know, a concern how COVID was going to impact all of this, and also 100% remote learning, right? But it's gone, you know, knock on wood, great. I mean, in terms of the incoming students being really satisfied with how the classes are going, how the acclimation to law school in this remote situation has been going. So far, so good. And right now we're seeing a pretty significant jump in applications. As
We
Suzanne
are
said,
applications,
it's a
yeah.
good time to be in law school.
Mhm.
It's a good time to be in school.
Yeah, I thought so. Thank you.
Madison?
I see that Southwestern also offers JD MBA and JD MA programs. Is that also for part-time students to take advantage, or is that specific to the full-time program?
Julie, can you address that? I believe
Absolutely.
it's available to all students.
It is, yes, it definitely is. If you're interested, I know in at least the JD MBA, the only thing with that is when you apply, obviously select that when it is an option and its own application, and a resume for that is required. If you're not applying for JD MBA, resume is optional, but that one is required. But
And
yeah, as an evening student, you absolutely still qualify and are able to participate in that.
Perfect. And does that affect the timeline of, like, we'd be looking at 4 years right now with the regular program? Does the MBA, is that just implemented within the 4 years, or is that going to change your time frame of graduation?
It will change your time frame a little bit, as far as, I mean, with the way you set it up, it's which you finish first. You know, we work with you and you kind of choose that, but typically, you know, it will be a little bit more time there.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Of course.
Shilpa, you have a question?
Yes, hi. So I have two questions, two very unrelated questions. First one is about how much debt do students usually graduate with financially?
Our student aid, I think we're looking, we have some students who get no loans whatsoever. We have other students who get every single thing that they need. If you were to get all of the tuition that you needed and your living expenses, you'd be graduating with about $260,000 in debt. That's unusual because most students do get scholarships and some of them do have some savings, et cetera. So I think we're looking at about 190 is average if you take those who don't borrow at all, and those, you know, it's more of a median.
Okay.
But it varies. It depends on what your circumstances are, though. You come in with a scholarship and you keep it for the whole 3 years, you won't have to borrow nearly as much money. There's no question about that.
But do most students end up getting scholarships?
Getting a scholarship? Well, it depends. If you're in the top 30% of your class, you certainly will.
But the rest of the 60% probably don't get a scholarship.
They might get an institutional scholarship, but they won't get the merit base.
We have three types of scholarships. They're the entering scholarships, the ones that you're offered, you know, when you apply, and that you accept, you know, that you come into Southwestern with. We call those the Wildman Schumacher. They're the merit scholarship, what we call merit scholarships. They're known as the Dean's Merit Scholarships, actually, and those are directly tied to your performance at Southwestern. And then there are the institutional scholarships, which are, you know, come from a variety of donors, and there's many of them. So I would say that many students have at least one of those types of scholarships. I mean, some have none, but I think many students have at least one, and quite a few students have more than one.
Got it. Thank you both. My second question is, I'd like to take advantage of the application fee waiver that I'd received. So I'd like to submit my application before December 31st. However, I will be taking my LSAT 2021. So is my application still deemed complete if I submit everything before 31st, but take my LSATs afterwards?
No.
And can I still take advantage of the fee waiver?
So I'll take this one. In that scenario where if you apply, we will receive your application, but it will be in an LSAT pending hold. The LSAT is a required component, so an application is not made complete until everything that's required is received. However, once those scores are received from LSAC, we immediately get them, and as long as that's the only thing pending on your application, we get those scores and we'll make you complete within 24 hours of them being received.
So then the application fee, I cannot take advantage of the application fee waiver then, right?
If the rest of your materials are complete, you absolutely can apply before December 31st.
Yeah.
You can submit it. You can use the fee waiver. You can submit everything and the only things pending is the LSAT. You absolutely
Yes.
you can take that. But when we get your application, we won't be able to make it complete until those scores come in. But we will have received it.
Yes.
And you'll just be in an LSAT pending status.
Got it. Okay. But
Okay.
the fees is still waived because everything else is complete minus the LSAT score. Okay, that's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Exactly. Once you hit submit, that's good. And if you have any issues with the fee waiver, contact me immediately and I can help you out with that one-on-one.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Absolutely.
So we're going to stick around to answer any questions that might be remaining, but I do want to respect that we're at the end of the hour at 6:30. So just wanted to quickly share our email addresses if you want to do a screen capture or take a photo to have our email addresses, but we'll definitely take any questions that you have, and please feel free to stick around. Madison?
Just to echo the same question we were just speaking on, I too I already have an LSAT score, but I'm planning to take it again in January as well. So in that case, is there anywhere that I should specify if I did want to apply before December 31st? Like, will I also go into that little holding of LSAT pending, or are you going to receive my application and just assume that I'm applying with the scores I already have? Or should I just?
It's multifaceted, but the easy answer is there's a question on the application that will ask, are you taking a future LSAT? Make sure you say yes. And then what will happen is we will receive the prior score, but we'll also see when we're processing the incoming application that there's a future LSAT. So we'll keep you on that hold. And just to be safe, if you don't have to, but if it would give you peace of mind, you can just shoot us an email and say, hey, I submitted and I just wanted to make sure, I notated that I have a LSAT, wanted to make sure that you guys saw that. I'd like my application held until those scores, then we can just confirm that for you. But as long as you note it, we'll see it.
Perfect, thank you.
Absolutely.
There's a question in the chat. Do you keep your entering scholarships all of your years at Southwestern? So when you get an incoming scholarship, that's a renewable scholarship, you will get to keep it if, and others please correct me if I'm wrong, you will get to keep it if your GPA is at a 3.0 or higher. So the renewable scholarships, the first year you have your scholarship, whether it carries over to the second year, 3.0 or higher, same with third year and fourth year.
And a quick thing to add about scholarships too, everybody that applies, you're automatically considered for the merit-based scholarship as an entering student. When you're admitted, it will tell you in your admissions letter if you've been granted a scholarship, and it will tell you, if it's a non-renewable or a renewable, and all of the, criteria to keeping that, as Professor Garkanian just explained.
Jennifer?
Hi, yes, I just wanted to clarify, since this is a rolling admissions, does that affect if you were to apply later on? Like we were talking about to, future students that are going to be applying, that they're going to apply in January, but would that make a difference, or how does that work with the rolling admissions?
So I'll jump in first. With rolling admissions, pretty much what that means is as we're receiving applications, we're reviewing them and rendering decisions. Our application is open until April 1st. And that, you know, with that being said too, that's a soft deadline. Sometimes it can be pushed back. So you have until then to apply. Now, does it get a little bit more competitive the later you apply? Sure. You know, at the beginning, we have all of our, you know, seats available. And then as time goes on, you know, and we're rendering those decisions, the seats that are left get smaller. So in that sense, you know, it gets a little bit more competitive. You're applying for less seats. But, you know, you have at this point until April 1st. I would encourage you to, you know, take the time that you need to create the strongest application, and don't rush being fearful of, you know, a time limit other than April 1st.
Okay,
Along
thank you.
the same lines, with respect to scholarship money, it does get more competitive as we go through the admission cycle. So keep that in mind as well.
Absolutely. Same thing with the seats. At the beginning, there's a whole pot of money, and as time goes on, it's awarded out and there's less money available.
Thank you.
Of course.
Phoebe and then Jessica.
Thank you. This is really helpful. I have a couple of questions. One is there always the start in the fall, or is there an opportunity to start in a different semester than fall?
We only start in the fall.
Okay. And then I'm 30 years out of college and going to be finally doing this. And so my 30 years of work experience in my resume, along with my GPA from college, and then of course the LSAT, which I'll be taking, is there any, plus the recommendation letters, I mean, is there a good amount of weight considered with the work experience for those of us who have taken a life first?
Yeah, I mean, so definitely you'll be in good company.
Okay.
We have students in the evening program and our 2-year JD program who are thinking about law school as a second career, as a third career, after many, many years of successful experience as a professional in different fields. And I think what you're going to find is that your work experience, your life experience is going to make your legal education that much more meaningful. When we think about law school, when we think about legal education, what you're learning, it's about dealing with situations that have to do with businesses and how they interact. It's about personal relationships. It's how we want to set up our society and different kinds of relationships in the public sphere and the private sphere. And so your background, your experience is going to come in very, very handy for yourself, but also contribute greatly to the classroom experience. The other thing that we know is from a recent national study with over 24,000 respondents from 70 plus different legal practice areas from all 50 states in terms of traditional hiring criteria and which ones are most helpful if you want to hire someone with the most desirable characteristics as a first-year attorney, that the experience between college and law school really matters. That your legal employment, having experience in the real world of work and professional growth really matters. So it's all going to serve you really well.
Okay, and I realize it'll be helpful when I'm in school, but will it still carry the same equal footing for consideration for scholarships and other programs, honors programs and such?
Absolutely. I mean, it's not going to be a disadvantage in any way. And definitely, you know, the experience that you bring with you, I think it's going to just help you in all sorts of different settings and help to distinguish yourself.
Thank you.
Jessica?
My question goes based off an earlier question that was asked by a different student. It's in regards to the JD MBA program versus the JD. How many students do you guys admit to each program? And just to kind of see what the probability is of getting into either program. And if you're not admitted to one of the programs, is there a chance of you getting admitted to the other program? And if you don't get admitted to, let's say, the JD MBA your first L year, are you able to apply maybe like within your second semester or your second year?
So great questions. When you apply, so we're partnered with the Drucker School of Business in Claremont, and they're considered separately. It is all one application. It comes to us first, and then we transmit that to Drucker. Yes, it is possible to get into one program and not the other. That's happened before. It's not entirely typical. Typically, you will get into both, but as far as the question about the probability, I mean, I don't have the probability numbers on Drucker, but it is two separate. I can send you the contact information for them. And what was your last question? I'm so sorry. I'm trying to think of that. Did I?
No, you're answering my question. Thank you. I guess just to kind of get further explanation, I don't know the application process yet because I still don't start my application. So I don't know if there's a checkbox to be able to apply for the JD MBA and the JD when we're submitting that one application, or if they're two separate applications.
Nope, it's all one. So you would select the JD MBA application. And like I said, as I mentioned earlier, the only thing that's a little different with that one is the required resume. That's a requirement from Drucker. For the non-JD MBA resume is optional to submit. But
sorry to interrupt you. Are we
go ahead, please.
select when applying both JD MBA and JD alone?
No, you'll just select, there's a JD MBA option and you'll select that, and that will get you consideration to both the JD and the JD MBA. Let's say we review your application and, knock on wood, we say yes, and Drucker says no for whatever reason, you're still admitted into our JD program that you applied to.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Any other questions we can answer for you? And if we don't have the answer, we'll get the answer for you.
I see a question in the chat for Professor DeJarfis. It says, Bridget, please speak to your first week in law school, how you adjusted your life to your class demands.
That is a really good question. It was a while ago, so I have to kind of think about that for a moment. But there's a couple things I want to say, and that is all of us in the evening program were working. And I don't know if you ever heard this when they say, if you want something done, ask the busiest people in the room, right? Because we know how to manage time. I mean, especially if you're, working all day and you're a mom or you have this, and you have so many things going on. I don't remember having to even really alter my my thinking. It was like, you have this to do. I calendar everything. I mean, that's a huge thing for me. I'm a checklist person. I'm a calendar person. In some respects, I'm a little old school. I do have my calendars online, but for me, it was really about just. I think somebody had said this before. Jacqueline had said before, and that is, I made a priority. I set out my week. I knew exactly what I was doing. One of the things I always tell students, anyways, whether you're in the evening program or the day, is that you take charge. You don't let law school happen to you. You make it. You make it work. You make the experience. You make the time. You don't let it just come upon you. So I think a lot of that is just, sitting down on Sunday nights or Friday nights or whatever your day is, and just planning it all out. I just found that there's a certain level of grounding that has to happen. So that first week, what I do remember about that first week was I was so excited. It was like a big adventure, and you go into school and you see all these great people. I sat next to, dentists and graphic artists and actors, and it was just, I got the chills. It was such an amazing experience because your world just opened up. I literally just remember being in awe, and the adjustment wasn't anything that was memorable. I guess let me say that, because it was just one more thing that I did. Did I answer that okay, Kimberly?
Folks, I'm gonna have to jump off, but wonderful to meet all of you virtually, and hope to see all of your applications and see you all at Southwestern. Have a great rest of your night.
So we also do free program for all incoming students. We call it the Bison Boot Camp. Bison is our mascot. So this is over the summer. We offer a few different sessions of this. The course that Dean Weissman mentioned, the foundations course that helps you acclimate into law school and supports you in all of our other courses. This is kind of a preview to that. So it starts off in the summer, and it starts off with very basics in terms of time management. So you could be somebody like Phoebe, who's had 30 years of work experience and probably, a master of your calendar, but fitting in law school is just another layer. And so how do you do that? And how do you figure out for every hour of class, how much you should calendar each week to study and prep outside of class? So all of that, there is support starting in the summer with this free of charge program for the incoming students, and then it continues through the foundations course.
I wanted to address, Kimberly asked a follow-up, and she said, how did you handle the work? Kimberly, you're talking about my day job as being an engineer, or you're talking about the work with regard to law school work? Classwork. Okay, perfect. Oh, okay, love this question. Okay, so again, I'm very structured. I was sitting at my desk at 7 a.m. My husband, I actually went to law school with my husband. Got married in June, and we started school in August. And but I was sitting at my desk at 7 a.m. and then I left. We left at 4:30 in the afternoon, and then we drove. At that time, we were working in West Covina as engineers for Honeywell. And then we drove in. It took us an hour. We would get to school by 5:30, and then class started at 6. So we needed 30 minutes to sort of assimilate and calm down, and social hour. So as far as the classwork, good question, because my days were so long, right? When do I do it? Well, unlike I think Jacqueline was talking about, for her, she did everything Friday night and up until 1 o'clock on Saturday. I didn't quite do it that way. That didn't work for me because I had, I was 40 hours a week plus working at my job, plus traveling. But for me, what we did is set up a very structured schedule again of, starting Friday after work. I would spend 4 hours studying, and I would get, a certain amount done. And when I talk about scheduling, I don't say, well, today I'm going to do contracts. No, it was, today I'm going to read, these cases. I'm going to do this briefing. I was very specific. And then, that's how my Saturday and Sunday, I would work, a good 4-hour chunks and then take a break. I would allow myself to go have lunch or watch a little TV or take a walk or, go do swimming back in the day. And then, get back at it. But for me, it was pretty much my entire weekend was spent, it was a full-time job. I mean, I treated it as a second job, and it was down to the, I don't say minute because that sounds a little odd, but it was very structured, and I think you have to do that because again, you can't let law school happen to you. You have to take charge because before you know it, stuff is just happening and life happens, so you have to ground yourself, and you ground yourself by your schedule. So I hope that answered that question. But if you have any follow-ups, make sure I will actually, my name wasn't on that list. So I will put it in the chat box if you want to get in touch with me directly. I'm happy to share whatever I have also. And I'm the co-director of the evening program. at Southwestern Law School. So I'm really in tune with, you know, being there for my evening students and all my students actually, but with a special affinity, I think, and because I know I've been through the experience of working all day and doing the evening thing. And by the way, I just so that you know, because somebody asked about this, I worked all day. I went to law school at night. I was on moot court, and I was the managing editor of Law Review. So when we talk about opportunities, there are as many as you want to take on. You know, there was no limit. I'm sort of my own worst enemy. So I took it all on, but you don't have to. You can if you want to. You don't have to. Scholarships are available, opportunities are available, honors programs, clubs. You know, I'm a big believer in you're there, so you do as much as you feel comfortable doing, and you know that you've got people from all walks of life and all you know, different jobs, and you know, there's just so much opportunity to expand who you are as a human being, and to, you know, create relationships that will go far beyond the 4 years or 3 years or 2 years or whatever that you're at Southwestern. I mean, I'm still really great friends, you know, with my dentist friend, you know, who I sat with the whole time. In fact, my husband, who's an IP attorney, actually does all of his work, you know, now. So, I mean, it's, you know, it's very communal, and so do as much as you can, as you want, or do as little as you want. You know, it's all there for the taking. So, I hope that answered. I'll
Praise Kimberly with your mic not working. Thanks for using the chat. All right, so we really mean it to reach out to us with any follow-up questions that you have. It's all about you and getting you prepared for law school. This is part of your legal education. I mean, good for you. And, you know, in this session, I saw a few familiar faces that we've seen at other events. Keep coming and keep educating yourself, because the more you learn about law school and the more you learn about what you need to do to get your life in a good place where you can dedicate a lot of time to law school, the better off you're going to be. So definitely look at this as part of your legal education and law school prep. All right, we'll say good night. Thank you again for joining us.
Thanks, everybody.